Massey Hall for Classic Albums Live, Pink Floyd, and there's our drummer Troy.
My name's Troy.
I'm Jenny.
All right, thanks. Okay.
Cool.
It's Troy. Troy Feener.
How are you?
Classic Albums Live tonight at Massey Hall.
Yep. Big
What else
night.
you got going?
In the last little while, I guess always playing with Druckfarben. Still doing odd things around the city. Some recording things, just different projects. Hard to kind of keep track. Still playing with the Doorsmen. Have a lot of fun doing that. And occasionally Will plays in the Doorsmen with me. And there's some startup stuff that's supposed to be happening. So, but Classic Albums Live and Druckfarben are my main two bands, and that's what keeps me busy. Yeah.
And tonight is
Wish You Were Here. First time that we've done this album at Massey Hall, and this will be our third Pink Floyd show here. We've done The Wall and Dark Side of the Moon previously, and it should be a lot of fun. We've got great musicians playing tonight. Vern Dorge is joining us on sax, a monster sax player. Who else do we have? Selena Evangeline, fantastic singer, and yeah, so a lot of fun. I love doing these shows. They're always well, you never know what you're going to get, right? You just always get different stuff. You get different people. It's always a treat to play great music with good musicians. So awesome. I enjoy it. Yeah. Temple blocks and stuff like that. Yeah. The actual ones from A Passage to Bangkok.
That's right.
Yeah. He's got those ones.
Yeah, that's very
Marty?
true. How you doing, man?
I'm Billy Z.
Hey, Billy. How are you? Here's Mark.
Hi, Mark.
So we'll go find a room or a spot here, Billy, because this is
sure.
I'm gonna.
the clip that was just in the other room there. All right. Well, we had Marty Morin, who's I guess started with Goddo. He was Goddo's original drummer. Played with Wireless for years. He's done so many things I can't even keep track of them now. But Marty's probably our elder statesman. He's been around the longest. And we've got Des Leahy on guitar. We've got Rob Phillips, who's fronting the band, and sort of our de facto leader. We have Mark. That's the guitar player that looks like Jesus.
Oh, okay.
You got the bassist is Mark Stewartson, who normally plays a lot of guitar. We don't usually get Mark on bass as often as he plays guitar on shows.
So he'll be playing Roger Waters, I guess.
He'll be doing that, yeah. We have Julie Mahendran playing second keys. We have Will Hare as the main keyboardist. In fact, tonight's show is probably mainly about Will and Rob. They're the ones that Wish You Were Here is that kind of record that I think really sets Pink Floyd apart from a lot of bands. In that they just thought much bigger than most bands do. It's such a big album, and the keyboards are just a dominant part. Huge Rick Wright stuff. So Will is handling that.
And does Marty share percussion with you somehow?
Yeah, well, Marty actually he's usually plays drums with the Beatles band. When we do The Wall, Marty does all the percussion and all the Roger Waters stuff. But tonight. Wish You Were Here doesn't have as much Roger Waters stuff as The Wall does, or as Dark Side of the Moon. So there's probably not as much emphasis on that. So I think Mark is maybe doing some of it. I know Rob will end up doubling and doing both guys. So Classic Albums Live, we don't necessarily assign one part to one person.
Right.
It can be whoever sounds best on that song.
Yes.
Whoever has the best feel for it, and really, we use the word DNA all the time, and I think with a lot of this music, you either had to grow up with it or you had to be aware of it. I think if it comes at you as a new piece of music, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for you to really get the feel of it, because there's a lot of gray stuff. You can chart it out. A lot of us that chart and do, I've got my book of charts and that stuff, but it's all the stuff that happens in between. Pink Floyd is one of those bands that's so unlike normal bands, because they don't typically start and finish songs the same way other bands do. They, do segues that go from one song into the next, and there's long parts that just have a very soft sound that goes for a long time. So it's one of those things where you have to be comfortable sitting and doing nothing for long periods of time and being ready when your opportunity comes to sort of ramp it up. So I really enjoy playing their music. You know, I know a lot of people argue that they don't think that they're a prog band because they were sort of psychedelic and blues based early on, but I would argue the fact that they were definitely progressive because they were doing things that other bands weren't doing. And I think that that's the definition of progressive rock, moving forward, progressing, and Pink Floyd were definitely doing that. You know, probably from metal on, I would say.
That would be a great segue to go into Druckfarben stuff, but I just want to ask you a little bit more about CAL.
Sure.
Which is Floyd your favorite CAL?
One of the favorites. I play probably Pink Floyd more than any other band. The guys that do Zeppelin are, you know, sort of together, and then we have the Beatles band. We have a couple guys that move back and forth between all three, but for the most part, the rhythm sections and, you know, a lot of the complementing players are the same in those bands. So, you know, we've got some Supertramp gigs coming up. I love doing the Supertramp. Again, big music, big stage, meant for big venues. I love doing the Who. The Who is probably my favorite to do when we do the Who. I've done almost, I think, 50 records now at this point, including the Yes, which is how Druckfarben started as part of Classic Albums Live. And, you know, with Craig, I was basically on him the whole time, just bothering him for years and years, and he just didn't want to have much to do with it. And then I think we had a lull at one point where there wasn't any new ideas coming, and I have an idea, and we went with it, and that's how Druckfarben was born. Came out of that Yes show. And then, you know, all the Beatles albums, I've had the great pleasure of being able to play some of those albums on stage. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a bad, we were trying to think if there was a bad record, and there's no bad record. There's some that surprised me. I wasn't necessarily a big Eagles fan, but I love playing the Eagles. We played it last night up in Barrie at the Georgian Theatre, and you know, Rumors was one that came to me after as we started to really get that record going. It feels great to play now. So yeah, it's a bonus. It's I guess Classic Albums Live lets you be different people all the time. You know, for me, I'm Stuart Copeland one night, and then I'm Bill Bruford another night, and then and it's fantastic. Whereas if you're just in the same band all the time, you're just playing your own stuff, same material, which is fantastic. Nothing wrong with that. You know, if you're in a cover band, you're just playing a bunch of stuff and probably not really trying to get it. You know, I won't say all cover bands are like that, but a majority of them are. You play it as good as possible for the 4 people or whatever that you're going to have, and then you leave it at that. And at Classic Albums Live, we treat the album almost like sheet music, almost like the way that, you know, a composer would write down all the parts. If there's a scratch or a tape edit or something that's on there where you hear a flam, we got to play the flam. You know, Rob is the guy that usually we look to, and he hears all the stuff. We were doing the Who, Who's Next, and on The Song Is Over, there's a part where you hear Keith Moon. It almost sounds like just a light little flub because they punched in and they took his part out, but they left it in the other mics because the other performance was good. So when we did the rehearsal the first time, got past the part, Rob said, whoa, hold on. Are you going to do the little hit there? I'm like, what little hit? I had to go back and listen to it and go, oh, wow. So, you know, it's really made all of our ears pick out all those things about the album that made it, you know, made it work. Beyond just the songs, it was the production and it was the choice of how they went from one song into the next. So it's great fun. It's, like I said, I'm never bored doing this. I love doing it.
Okay, so one more question about CAL, which is, what was your favorite CAL show? Where, when, anecdote?
Favorite of all time. Oh boy.
50 albums, you've said.
Yeah, and 12 years now, so it starts to blur. I remember playing New Jersey Performing Arts Center the very first time when we did The Wall, and looking up there and thinking, wow, if my mom could see me now, this would be something else, because it's got 5 balconies. It looks It looks regal. It looks like Royal Albert's Hall or one of those places. It's on a grand scale. And when you walk out on this 100-foot stage and you look up and they have this giant chandelier and all this stuff up the top, you're just kind of like, I like my job. I'm happy to be here. There's been some great ones. We played to about 35,000 people in St. Petersburg for a rib fest. We went on right after Atlanta Rhythm Section and Eddie Money, and we went on just before Grand Funk Railroad. So that was pretty cool. Other memorable ones, just so many. First time playing Massey Hall was great, had always wanted to do that. And of course we were joking around playing some Rush earlier on stage and saying, okay, this is a requirement. Yeah, you have to do this when you're here.
Stage.
Yeah,
it's got to be 40 years ago now.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and there was talk at one point that we might try to do that for the 40th anniversary. I don't know that it's dead yet, but we'll see. Yeah, I mean, like I said, so many great shows, and because we are so fortunate to play in beautiful places like this, Roy Thompson Hall, I love playing there. There's some great venues down in Florida, Melbourne, King Center. Never bored, always interesting. So, yeah.
Well, this is great. So one take, we've got more than 10 minutes already, so this is absolutely perfect for me.
I'm a chatty Cathy, so.
That's awesome. And I remember the first time I met you was your release of Second Sound, I believe it was.
Downstairs at the, Antler Club or Antler Room or something. Yeah.
And you told the story of how Druckfarben's name came about.
Right.
So I believe every band member has kind of touched on that a little bit since then, because I do have everybody on the show. But if you want to tell me anything else that is insightful about Druckfarben, that would be great.
Well, my recollection of that particular event is that, again, it comes from Ed and I, rehearsing many, many, many years ago. And, of course, we were taking part in some hallucinatory experiments. And there was these, musically speaking, there were these large black barrels that were in the corner, and they were stenciled with big white letters that said Druckfarben. And we just couldn't imagine, first of all, didn't know that it was German, didn't know that it meant printing colors, so any of that. So it was kind of a joke, just laughing really hard one night saying, what would be really funny is if we started a band and called it Druckfarben. Well, 30 years had passed.
Really?
Yeah, pretty much. It was a long time. Well, maybe not 30 years had passed. Let me think about this realistically. Over 20 something years. When what really sealed it for me was Will's reaction to it. Because we were sitting around, we had a couple of beers, and originally Jason Farrar of the Dave Barrett Trio was at this original meeting because the plan was maybe to incorporate him because Peter had been my first guy to call, and he was busy. And then I had I was speaking to him on the phone after this, and he said, no, I'm still really into this. I would love to do it. Right. So then we had to talk to Jason and find out, you remember that this was, Anyways, at this particular meeting, I brought up when we were talking about having band names. I, of course, looked at Ed and kind of gave him the old, let's call the band Druckfarben. A bit of silence. And then Will was looking very puzzled, just like, what? No, you can't name a band. What was it? Druckfarben? No, impossible. We can't do this. And right away we kept laughing. Now, the story gets even better than this. So we decide that we're going to run with it a little bit. So we tell Phil that the band's going to be called Druckfarben. What does Phil do? Entrepreneurial Phil gets on the phone, calls somebody, and has posters made. So suddenly, we're actually called Druckfarben at this first gig, and it was like, and I was the one that was moaning probably for the first 2 years, like, guys, can't we change this name? Oh no, it's great, it really sort of symbolizes the music in that. Like, no, it doesn't, like you said, Druckfarben, or Druckfarber, or one of those, it's pretty...
Slip of the tongue, I never misprint though.
Yeah, well, there you go, but I'm just saying, I remember showing up at clubs, and it's always written wrong. Rock and Docs had us as Drunk Farmer a couple of times. And I thought, well, that should be the name. Let's go with Drunk Farmer. I think it's great. Drunk Farmer is a great name. Wouldn't you go see that? I would go see that. What does Drunk Farmer play? I have no idea. I would think it would be hillbilly music, but if you started into playing Close to the Edge, I'd be like,
yeah.
You know. So that's more or less how that happened. As far as insightful things about Druckfarben, well, it's been hard to really keep the band going. When we decided to make the switch from playing covers to original band, it changed the dynamic. We don't want to play in pubs and that kind of stuff anymore. We would like to do our own shows, but we're in Toronto, city not known for its support of progressive rock or really, outside musical endeavors. And so the band has slowed down a lot. And, Will and I have been busy doing classic albums live. Ed is now releasing his own solo record, which we're really hoping does very well. And, I'm really excited that he's, Ed's got so much energy and he's got so many ideas. We always feel guilty that we're holding him back. And we know that he wants to get stuff happening. So, I really hope that happens. We still want to make music together. We're not done with performing Second Sound yet. We've been jamming some new stuff and we've been writing in a different way. So we've been going in and playing just ideas that are happening right in the room. Again, Ed's the main catalyst. I've been video recording all of it and searching back through the stuff, and we've got some great ideas. And it's sounding different. It does definitely sound evolved again because there's more input from everybody. It's happening in real time. And so we're hoping to get back on that again. Peter renovated his rehearsal space, so we haven't been at it for, I'm going to say, maybe 4 weeks now, 4 to 5 weeks. It's kind of hard when you interrupt the cycle like that. Most modern bands now with guys like Marco Miniman and, the elite guys that are playing in the prog scene and the fusion scene, they basically book dates. They get together a day or two before, they run through all the material, they get it going, and more or less the first few gigs are probably their rehearsals. But they're that good that you'd never know it. I think with Druckfarben, we always write ourselves into a hole. We challenge ourselves at at the highest level that we can, and it becomes really hard to just play our own music, harder than some of the other stuff that we grew up with, right? Like I could play Close to the Edge easier than I could play some of the tracks on Second Sound because they're just, I know that music, it's easier, it's more ingrained. But, Druckfarben is one of those bands that I'm really proud to be in. I think all the guys that are in the band are really proud because we challenge ourselves and because, I think that the music that we created is world caliber. I think that, we're definitely aware of who our peers are, and I think that we sit in amongst them quite nicely.
And so does sell in world markets.
Well, absolutely. I've been always amazed. I mean, we'll sell 5% here compared to like Germany and places like that are we're always needing to restock the CDs over there. And they'll order 50 to 100 at a time, and 2 weeks later they'll be calling and asking for more. So always great when you can have that stuff happening. Yeah.
So what else about Troy do you want to mention?
I'm not really sure. Sometimes I don't think I'm all that interesting. I'm just a musician that enjoys his job. I'm happy that I've been able to have this as a career for, I guess, almost 30 years now. It'll be 30 years next year. I started professionally on the road when I was 20. I basically left home, was gone back in the days of the six-nighters. So this is all I know. This is right out of high school and art school, and that's one of the connections that goes back to with Classic Albums Live is that I went to high school with Craig and Tracy, and I've known about the Scarborough influence in Classic Albums Live is huge. There's the main core of people have all either grown up there or lived there at one point. Coming out of there and just being at an art school with guys like Ed and that kind of stuff, I always, wanted to challenge myself and play really good music, stuff that I enjoyed, and I've been so lucky at this point to, you know, still be one of the guys in the city with the music industry and that kind of stuff, you know, really not doing as well as it was previously, that I'm still thriving and having fun. So, yeah.
Good on you. Any other names you want to drop? People you've worked with, people you've been influenced by? Well,
I mean, I've done long runs with Tom Cochran, with Gowan, with Honeymoon Suite, with Rick Emmett, you know, so I got to play with a lot of the guys who wrote the material. So I performed their songs for them. Very different than what I'm doing now, which is reproducing other artists' music. So, you know, I've had a really fun and varied career. I've played a lot of different styles of music. Last summer I was touring with Derek Rattan. Had a blast doing that. It was my first time really being out playing on the big country stages with the bigger country bands. And, you know, I just like it that new things come up all the time, you know, and I'm hoping that that continues to happen. And in no way do I feel like stopping, you know, doing what I've been doing now for all this time.
You endorsing anybody?
Well, I endorse Mapex drums, I endorse Headhunter sticks, I endorse Zildjian cymbals. I don't necessarily endorse Sennheiser, but I had a great relationship with them for a long time. And that would be it for now. You know, again, endorsements are one of those interesting things. When you really need them is when you're young and starting out. And when they're offered to you is usually when you're more successful and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm never too worried about whether or not I have endorsements for things or not. I like to play equipment that sounds good and that lasts a long time. I worked at Toronto Percussion Center and Steve's for a long time. So, you know, if there was any requirements for me, it's that it has to be durable. It has to be professional grade. Has to hold up night after night of being set up and torn down, and you know, so more or less, I'm really happy with the gear that I use now. You know, I get great response from people. Sound men really seem to like all the gear. So yeah.
All right, closing remarks.
Not sure. Wouldn't know. I thought that was more or less what I did already.
Well, okay, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure having you on Musicians in Bars Getting Beer. I mean, Massey does serve beer.
It's just on the other side of the door, and they usually put beer in that fridge right there. We just don't have any right now. That's all. But it's coming. Trust me.
And I do thank you for this. A long time coming, and it was worth the wait. You've been a great interview.
All right.
I thank you, Troy. Thanks.
Hey, all right. Thanks, buddy.
For being on the show.
Pleasure.
I'm sure we'll see you soon.
All right. Cheers.